Alright. Hi, my name is Braden. It's been a while on this channel, but I thought I would, you know, just have some fun with it and make a video. So yeah, it's been a while. Last time I posted here was probably 2022. I was about 16, 17 years old. Had no facial hair, but now we're back. Um, I just kind of want to go over just, the purpose of this channel, some goals I have, and, kind of a reflection of where I've come in my lifting journey. And yeah, so just to go over the purpose of this channel, I want it to serve as kind of a reflection for me and kind of to document my lifting style, my lifting philosophy, but also maybe potentially provide value to whoever stumbles across the channel. I don't expect it to really you know go very far in terms of popularity, but I would like to provide some value to whoever watches. And I'm not a personal trainer. I've just been lifting for a while, and it's something that I'm passionate about, and I just like talking about it. So that was the purpose of the channel, and I have some video ideas, kind of cooking in my head, but I also want to develop my own personal skills, public speaking, maybe like some video editing, what have you. But yeah, the ultimate goal is to provide value to not only whoever's watching, but to myself, and kind of work on that. To look back at my previous training, honestly, not much has changed. And it's kind of a topic of discussion for a video in the future that I have lined up. But, you know, I think what's been really a good skill I've developed is consistency. Looking back at some of my old videos I have posted, the only thing that's really changed about my training is my body weight and maybe my approach to volume. But for the most part, things have stayed relatively consistent. I've always, pushed intensity to the limit. And especially nowadays, that's really the emphasis. Back in the day, back in 2022, a lot of my training methodologies was higher volume because that's what I was exposed to. And that kind of goes with how things developed around that time. There's a big emphasis on, power building and kind of that sort of training methodology. So I did a lot of focus on bench press, squat, deadlift, and then any accessories for those movements. So like RDLs, uh, what is it like? Even like weighted push-ups. So and even today, I still carry a lot of these principles, but now I've kind of developed them into a different type of approach. For example, I train lower volume now, but not like soup too low volume, like 2 to 3 sets. Like if it's something I want to emphasize, like my arms for example, I might do 3 sets, but it really depends on how I'm doing the lift, and that's a big thing moving forward is training with intention. Training it with intention on how I do the left lift, the rep range that I do, how many sets, etc. So it's something that I've been working on, and that's really the main thing that's changed is my approach to volume and less of an emphasis on the big three, since like I said, there was a phase where power building was kind of it was the big thing and the big discussion at the time. But I kind of got out of that mindset, and rather than trying to get stronger in just those lifts, I've kind of taken the approach of getting to stronger anywhere. I kind of took isolations on the back, like the back end, but nowadays it's like, I'm doing 2 sets of bicep curls, like barbell curls, and like really going from like rather than doing like 8 to 12 reps, like 3 sets, 8 to 12, I'm doing like 2 sets, 4 to 6 reps even sometimes, but really trying to push that intensity. Um, yeah. So rather than doing that, like I've kind of strayed away from the deadlift, although I still do the deadlift. It's not, rather than treating like the RDL, for example, as an accessory, I really try and push those and get stronger at those. Not only that, I've done stuff like I've implemented more dips and like body weight movements. I'm really trying to get stronger at pull-ups. That's my goal this year. Um, Stuff like, what is it, dumbbell bench press, and really not being so dogmatic with my approach to the big three. I still do them every now and then just because they're fun and they're kind of what got me into lifting in the first place. But my approach is to really just develop strength in all aspects, not just those three lifts. Now, moving on, I guess, my goals, I guess I've kind of sprinkled it in here. There's not really much of a format to this. This is just my brain, being spat onto video. But, my goals, I have them written down. Right now, I'm currently on a cut. It's my first cut that I'm really attempting to take seriously. I'm tracking a lot of the food that I eat. I have, more protein goals and all that stuff. And I'm looking up, I can see it right there. I'm trying to get, 160 grams to 190 grams of protein. Yeah, currently I'm 218 at the start of this. Um, so a pretty significant difference from the 180 that I was back in 2022. Granted, a lot of it was probably fat, but my goal is to get around to 190 to 200 pounds body weight. I think with that, that'll give me a good baseline to then bulk up again, but do it in a controlled manner rather than just stuffing my face every Thanksgiving, So want to do a more careful approach. But yeah, the cut is kind of the main focus right now. And one thing interestingly I've known is since, my carbohydrates have been lower, obviously my performances went down a little bit, but I've learned, you know, different methodologies for timing my carbohydrates and, my food in general to give me, more energy within my sessions rather than just eating whatever and then showing up to the gym. I time things carefully. I'm a lot more, um, I put a lot more intention and thought into what I put into my body, which is also just, you know, giving me less mental fog throughout the day and incentivizes eating better because eating a lot of high fibrous foods, a lot of high protein foods, and eating better carbs for you really makes you consider what you're putting into your body. um, so that's kind of that in terms of like gym. A lot of it is, yeah, so I'm taking the approach of two hard sets, sometimes three, and depends what it is, sometimes four. So like for example, like if I'm doing pull-ups, I typically try and do those at the start of my workouts while I'm fresh. Do some weighted pull-ups. I typically do about a heavy, like two heavier sets. So let's say like, I hang like, 45-pound plate and do that for about like, 5 to 7 reps. And then I do two back off sets. So just some body weight to get that skill and that technique down. But for majority of what I do, like shoulder press, like I'll do like barbell overhead press. I'll do two sets of those. And the reason why I've been doing two sets is um, when you only have two sets to do, you can really hone in on your intensity and your technique and really push. Because I found when I was doing 3 to 4 sets in my previous approach in 2022, sure you get a lot of volume in, um, but you kind of like slack that first set or even second set. Like I'd really only go all out on that third set. So being able to focus on two sets for majority of my lifts really gives me a lot more intention and purpose. And also with another thing is, you might be thinking it's like, well, how are you gonna get your volume in? Well, what I do is I increase exercise selection rather than just, keeping a handful. I do a lot of different variations in movement pattern, for example. So it's like I'll do two sets of a barbell curl, and then I'll do two sets of like a dumbbell preacher curl, and then maybe another two sets of like, incline curls, right? So adding more variation and adding more frequency throughout the week. So I'm doing it still like an upper lower approach, but it's kind of a little bit of like sprinkle the full body because I'm honestly doing a little bit of everything each day. Even on my leg days, my leg days are a lot very minimal since that's not a goal. My legs are already pretty strong since I kind of developed that foundation early on. But really, like my arms, my shoulders, my core, those are kind of like my focus. Especially my arms. I want to get some big arms. I got these like long noodle arms. So I'm working on developing that. And yeah, so that's in terms of training. Um, any closing regards? I guess aside from fitness, I guess like mental health, stuff like that. Stuff to keep myself sharp. That's something I really want to do. So I've been trying to read and write every single day. I even do math on the side. Like I have this book right here, and I just kind of do it whenever I feel like it. Um, but yeah, just keeping myself mentally sharp, writing stuff down, talking to the people I care about, all that stuff. But that's kind of besides the point. This is mainly going to be a lifting channel, talking about stuff that I'm interested in, and just whatever's on my mind, and also just develop my skills. So, this is a bit of a ramble, but I hope you enjoyed. And here's to a good 2026.